Not that Universal wouldn't love to become exactly what Disney's become. That's what all the theme parks no one goes to are for. And they would certainly love to put out 3 to 4 movies a year and say, well, you don't have to watch them all. But if you don't, our tri-annual Big Dumb crossover event isn't going to make any sense. Unless, of course, you also read 20 gigs worth of hot takes from websites you never see unless one of your relatives posts them on Facebook. In fact, Universal's been trying to make their own expanded universe for... I originally wrote 10 years here, but it turns out Joe Johnston's Wolfman remake was actually just a remake. The leading edge of a wave of remakes that did so horribly at the box office, Hollywood actually took notice and started considering. What if we disguised the remakes as sequels? Jurassic World being a prime example. They've really only been trying to get their dark universe off the ground for 4 years. Ever since the release of the profitable but instantly forgotten Dracula Untold. Yeah, me neither. Yet the presumptive bastards still went and made their own logo. And I gotta know, how tedious was the tedious meeting that concluded with, just like our regular logo, but darker? We start off in London's Tube. New construction knocks open a tomb from the Second Crusade, and Jor-El immediately takes that shit over with a whole pack of suits. He just as immediately begins monologuing at us about the ancient Egyptian princess Amenet, Pharaoh's firstborn daughter, destined for the throne. Until Pharaoh's wife gave him a son, as if ancient Egyptian royals never kept it in the family. But Amenet makes a pact with the god Set for the power to kill her father, mother, and half-brother, in exchange for a sacrifice that Set can pour himself into, thus entering the mortal world. Amenet's stopped before she can hold up her end of the bargain, and buried alive for her regicide in what would eventually, and is still occasionally, known as the Land Between the Rivers. This is both very dumb and grand-scale slander of a deity that everyone should have known better than to piss off. Far from being some singular god of death, as he's described here, Set could more accurately be called the god of darkness, which was maybe as bad to the ancient Egyptians as death is to we modern Americans. Maybe even worse, since, after all, they worshipped the sun outright without any of our culture's half-measures or bullshit intermediaries. Hell, everybody in the Egyptian pantheon had a little something to do with death. It was not, to them, the universal bad thing that we make it out to be. If you were rich enough to get mummified, it was more like the first stage of a journey to the western lands, the land of the two fields that Osiris opened up to humanity when the world was young and he first married his sister, Isis. The souls of the poor, naturally, got dismembered by demons the moment their bodies decayed, but that's royalist religion for you. The afterlife was a gated community of, by, and for the super rich. Not at all like now. No. Things might have flowed much better if they'd just opened with Amenet's backstory. No narration, no modern English, no plot-specific news network introducing us to our MacGuffin. Just a 5-minute stretch of New Kingdom Game of Thrones. Or is the idea of starting a mummy movie off in Egypt too radical these days? Did it not test well with an audience of random Tuesday night mall goers? The movie could still have shown us her backstory piecemeal as things went on, which it will go on to do, making this entire monologue redundant. Even having a secondary character, Russell Crowe's or someone else's, tell all of this to our protagonist over drinks would have been better than... Oh, wait, they do that too. making this whole monologue double redundant. Damn, Mummy 2017, we're off to a great fucking start here. Fast forward to modern Iraq, where 56-year-old Sergeant Nick Morton... he doesn't even have the excuse of being like a gunnery sergeant or anything. He's just Sergeant Nick Morton. Tim. Oh, god damn it, I just got that. Where 56-year-old Sergeant Nick Morton is having a wacky war adventure comedy with his odious comic relief, Veil. What we have here is a movie that treats 2017 Iraq almost exactly like the last Mummy remake treated 1920s Egypt, as an exotic backdrop for our Hollywood heartthrob protagonists' acts of daring do. Swap Brendan Fraser for Tom Cruise and tell me if we've traded up or down. 'Cause I'm having a little attack of cognitive dissonance over here. Brought on by how casually this movie treats my country's ongoing, apparently endless wars. 10, 15, and especially 17 years ago, they were treated as distinctive breaks from the pre-existing status quo. And now they just are the status quo. Set decoration for our stupid retellings of stories that were once popular and are now reduced to recognizable brand names. Anybody else smelling oranges? Like, I feel like I need to lie down, and we've only just begun. Lest you think this is some jingoistic Michael Bayified production about supporting the troops. Our lead troop is a lying, thieving, black market dealing in ancient artifacts scumbag with a bottomless well of self-regard. The perfect place for a Tom Cruise character to begin his arc towards becoming a real boy / selfless hero. You might remember this from such actually bearable Tom Cruise films as The Firm, Jerry Maguire, and hell, even Edge of Tomorrow. After this movie flopped, nearly everyone rushed to blame Tommy Boy from behind the safety of anonymity. Many an unnamed source came forward to tell tales of an actor power-tripping his balls right off. Allegedly, he gave director Alex Kurtzman this job because they know each other from Mission Impossible 3. And maybe because Alex was an untested director with nothing but TV on his resume, looking for some of that big-budget franchise clout. As Marvel Disney has learned over the years, those are the kinds of directors who play ball. They're malleable, and they keep their mouths shut when things go wrong. Cruise just as allegedly brought in his own writers to rework the script, and sat in on the editing, beefing up his own part all the while. He may have even lobbied for this movie's eventual June 2017 release date. As if you could outdraw an Amazon, you pathetic lightweight. I don't know if any of these stories are true. I know Hollywood's full of people who stab you in the back soon as look at you. But that's true everywhere. I know it's also full of people who still think it's 1996, when stars, particularly action stars, could bend studios to their will. The idea that some still can is not outside the realm of possibility. I just wish we had more than variety to rely on, you know? All these websites breathlessly recounting every teaser poster and teaser trailer and reaction to the teaser trailer and box office returns once the damn thing actually comes out 6 months after everybody's decided whether or not to hate it, and none of them, not a damn one of them, can do us any good when a movie like this drops and we all collectively shake our heads and wonder, so what the fuck happened? Shit. What happened is Sergeant Nick stole a map from archaeologist Dr. Jennifer Halsey after a one-night stand. Dr. Halsey convinces Nick's colonel, who, in a massive casting oversight, is not played by Keith David. You want to build an expanded universe without some stunt casting? to let her, Nick, and Vale into the ancient tomb their most recent airstrike is uncovered. Once downstairs, Nick shoots the mechanism, keeping Amunet submerged in a lake of mercury, freeing her to hit him with a dreamlike makeout session. Gee, it's almost like somebody wrote an entire movie around Tom Cruise getting to make out with a hot Egyptian sorceress. But that can't be the case now, can it? Oh, she's good and mummified in the physical world, but on the psychic plane... Dr. Halsey's smug Britishness is initially annoying, but her obligatory warming up to Sergeant Nick is even more annoying since A, he's Tom Cruise, and B, he's Tom Cruise playing a lying, thieving, black market dealing, and ancient artifacts scumbag with a bottomless well of self-regard to mask his fragile ego. When their newfound mummy downs the C-130 carrying everyone back to England, Nick does get one moment of genuine heroism, wrestling Dr. Jennifer into the only available parachute while they're in freefall, in the one action scene that's actually quite cool and worth every penny. Shame it leaked onto the internet before this movie came out. Without any sound, no less. That's a new one on me. Like, I remember when X-Mao came out and half the special effects were missing, and that was funny, but when this came out and the sound was missing for some reason, it was just kind of sad. You know? And it's still kind of sad, because this movie wasn't very far uphill to begin with, and it's all the way down from here. Except for one little moment, a twist I actually liked, where Nick undercuts his own big damn hero moment by saying to Dr. Jenny, "I thought there was another parachute." If he'd maintained that ambient level of assholishness throughout, who knows? This movie might have worked. But he can't, because he's Tom Cruise, and so this movie doesn't. No matter how many cool powers it gives its mummy. In an example of incipient power creep that would make even Clark Kent go, damn, Amunet retains most of the powers Mummy 99 gave to her Rule 63 counterpart. She's got the control over vermin, be they spiders, rats, or beetles. In fact, the one common phobia inducer we don't see is snakes. Instead, she has the power of the birds. Like, seriously, Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds. She also has Imhotep's powers of what I occasionally call siliconesis. Silicomancy? I'm working on it. I'll workshop it. The power to control sand. Extended this time around to control over sand's most popular human-made derivative, glass. And, of course, she can suck out other people's life force to replenish her own flesh, but that's just par for the mummy course now, isn't it? Her major innovation is turning all the newly desiccated into zombie minions, because of course, without zombie minions, who the hell's Tom Cruise gonna punch? Vale's the first to turn. Get it? Vale, because he crosses the veil between life and death. You get it? You get it? You fucking get it? And mad props for killing your odious comic relief right away. Nick puts 3 bullets into him, and Vale literally haunts Nick for the rest of the movie. And I almost have to take my props right back, because, well, it's not a wholesale ripoff of American Werewolf in London. It's left admirably vague as to whether Vale is a literal ghost, Nick's guilty conscience projecting, or another psychic hook Amunet sunk into Nick's incredibly smooth brain. Still, it breaks one of the cardinal laws of genre movies by reminding me of a much better movie I could be watching in the midst of this one. A little later, when the zombified crusaders are chasing Sergeant Nick and Dr. Jenny through the flooded catacombs under London, I'm going to start thinking of Fulci zombie movies too, and finding that this movie does not benefit for the comparison. It's never a good sign when your movie gets me thinking, you know, I haven't seen Zombie 2 in a while. Could be watching it right now. Aminette's chosen Nick to be her new worthy vessel, as Dr. Jenny tells us. And as Dr. Jor-El/Jekyll already told us, and then tells us again, making his whole opening monologue triple redundant. Though I forgive them for thinking we may have fallen asleep. After a somewhat nice bit inside an old abbey, only thing that feels like a gothic horror movie in all of this, that leads into a somewhat dumb excuse to have a car chase in a mummy movie, our mummy and her new boyfriend are captured by Dr. Jekyll's secret paramilitary organization, Prodigium, which Dr. Jenny's been working for this whole time. Dun dun dun. I guess Jekyll's been running this great and secret show for over 100 years? So how much of Robert Louis Stevenson's book is canon in this universe? Did he even exist? If not, then goddamn, modern literature must be completely unrecognizable over there. Or is it like that weird little show Stephen Moffat made, where the book exists and it's canon because it was based on a true story. It's just that Stevenson fudged some details to protect the innocent and tacked on a, I don't know, happy ending? You know, an ending Victorian readers would have expected and accepted, shall we say. We were supposed to wait through another movie before we found out, weren't we? Well, joke's on you, Henry. And Eddie. And damn it, I actually kind of like Russell Crowe's Dr. Jekyll, and I really like his Mr. Hyde. His saws off the chain, to the point where I start wishing our actual protagonist had his kind of energy. Ironically for Hyde, Cruise seems like the one who's trapped in a self-made cage. Either flippantly aloof from all the mystical shit he's suddenly found himself stepping in, or trying to actually sell the scares. Like an actor in some kind of horror movie. Thus, we see the two contradictory strains of this mummy. On the one hand, it wants to be a universal horror movie. Whatever that means these days. I'm sure some committee came up with some really asinine definition, and now it's sitting in a drawer somewhere, gathering dust. Like all the Easter eggs in Prodigium that all we internet movie people were supposed to breathlessly post about. Sorry, Universal. You could at least buy me a drink first. But on the other hand, it wants to be a thrill-a-minute early June action blockbuster movie starring the original Maverick himself. The kind of movie that makes people use cliches like thrill a minute because it doesn't leave you any room to breathe or think. Why else cast Tom Cruise? When's the last time he was in a horror movie anyway? Interview with a Vampire? Has it been that long? Well, War of the Worlds kinda counts, but that was a Spielberg movie. These two genres do not mix well, no matter how much money the last Mummy remake made. Hell, people got sick of that after just one sequel. Even though they made a third, just to be sure, and they made a spin-off because The Rock. Say what you want about Prometheus, and I have, but at least both it and its sequel had the guts to be unabashed, no holds barred, R-rated, early June horror movies. I respect that, even admire it in a stomach-clenching kind of way. No matter what happened, this Mummy massively miscalculated who its audience might be and what they might actually want. Long experience has taught we horror fans to look down our noses at PG-13s and quote-unquote big quote-unquote Hollywood stars that aren't playing the villain. Their presence is usually a giant neon sign telling all of us not to expect anything other than massive disappointment. Not that we don't hope. It springs eternal, like the Nile. So when Dr. Jenny finally dies during the climactic chase zombie battle, I wrote down, God, I hope they have the guts to let Jenny stay dead. But once all the pieces of this story were in place, its conclusion became, if not foregone, then certainly obvious. Does an ancient sorceress want to sacrifice you to her death god? Well, why not beat her to the punch? Sacrifice yourself. Because that's what heroes actually do, Odin's son. As you should know from your first film. And make no mistake, people. For all its horror movie trappings, be they classical, neoclassical, or modern, this is very much a superhero movie in disguise. All action movies are, to a greater or lesser degree. And this one may be called The Mummy, but it's certainly not her show. This is, in every sense of the word, a setup. The origin story of Sergeant Nick Morton. Or how I learned to stop worrying and become the ancient Egyptian god of death. Which is too bad, because I don't really care about Nick until the very end. Only after he's raised himself from the dead does he become even the least bit interesting. And still, he's got no names, he's got no cool costume. He's got nothing but an indeterminate set, of powers over life and death, which could mean any number of things. Sergeant Morton. Mortem. Sergeant Death. I'm copywriting that, Universal. You can't have it. We see him use the life suck powers to defeat Amenet. And the final shot of the film implies he's got some form of silicomancy. But is that it? Did he get the full slate of mummy powers without losing his Rogue Nation-ish good looks? What we have here is yet another case of a film trying to please everyone and pleasing exactly no one. I mean, who asked for this, really? I certainly didn't. I'm good. I got 13 other mummy movies from 3 different eras and 2 different studios. And that's without going down south, where generations of luchadors have kept the populace safe from all kinds of Aztec mummies. Hey, there's a thought. How about we get some Aztec mummy movies up in here? Of course, with our luck, Kurtzman would still wind up directing all of them. Or worse, he'd produce all of them, and then get his former co-writer, Robert Orsi, to direct. And then somehow they'd all wind up being some kind of 9/11 truther fan fiction. The Mummy was an inside job, sheeple. The globalists at Prodigium are stockpiling evil artifacts from around the world right here at home, next to your homes and your children. What is their plan? What dark satanic rituals are they conducting under the streets of London? All we know for sure is that their leader is a multiple murderer who has somehow been allowed to walk free for over 100 years. How has he lived this long? And what is that stuff he keeps injecting into his arms? I don't have families or children anymore because my wife divorced me because I was too real, because I'm a real man. You can tell because I take all of my pills. So buy my overpriced, underpowered brain pills that'll give you the shits right now before it's too late. They're coming for your children, folks. Hide your kids. Hide your wife. They're mummifying everybody out here. Whew. It's too hot for an Alex Jones impression. Jesus. If you like this video, click stuff. Shit. And support me on Patreon. Like, our glorious patrons. Patrons like Mr. Hootie Dean, Detective Steve, The After Movie Diner, and welcome new subscriber Mark, aka Stu G. Stooge? Stu G. I'm gonna go with Stu G until you correct me. Next time, I don't know. Depends if it's 100 degrees in here or just 90.